start over from the beginning.
But before I deal with the serpent hashira, I have to tell you how I got here.
Last week I ate like Mitsuri Kanroji, the love hashira, and I took it upon myself to give me a personal challenge. And that is to simply touch my toes by the end of this 8 weeks. Look, I'm getting older and these things are important. So join me as I dive into the Taisho era foods that the Demon Slayers may have eaten during their time. And if I don't touch my toes by the end of the 8 weeks, well, I'm gonna buy you guys some movie tickets. I'll let you know how you can do that towards the end of this video.
Now the serpent hashira is known for 3 things: his pinpoint accuracy with a sword, his coiling serpent-like strength, and his love for Mitsuri. Now our boy Obanai is a very simple person. The only time he overeats or eats anything extravagant is when he's with Mitsuri, but we're gonna talk about that later. For now, I'm gonna talk about what this is, Obanai's favorite food, tororo kombu. It's actually just tororo kombu, but it sounds fun when you say it like the JoJo way. Anyways, I've never actually cooked with this before. I've never had this before. I didn't know this existed, Gandalf, until I discovered Obanai's favorite food. Tororo kombu. This is not for you. This is seaweed marinated in vinegar. Oh, that's strong. Here, you can smell. You can smell. Smell. Yeah, see, you don't like that. This smells like salt and vinegar chips. Look at that. It almost looks like textured paper or some kind of a material. That's really interesting. Hold on, we're gonna try this. It's not bad. It's not my favorite. We're gonna make it for breakfast. Let's see what happens.
Now I'm choosing to use soba noodles for this, or buckwheat noodles. Buckwheat noodles were actually established way before the timeline of Demon Slayer, back in around the 1600s of Japan. But the reason why I'm picking soba noodles is because it ties into Obanai's personality more than any other noodle. It's a noodle that can be enjoyed on its own or with other ingredients like this marinated tofu that I'm going to make with a very secret sauce.
It's not really a secret. I've used this teriyaki sauce recipe so many times on the channel. And so while you can find that recipe for free on the channel, I've also included it in Cooking with Chaos, my brand new infinite recipe card system. Cooking with Chaos is a collection of 60 different modular recipes, which means you can mix and match different recipe cards to get new meals every single time. And I have to talk about this quick because these noodles are almost done. Gandalf, please don't eat this tofu. You get 20 different proteins, 20 different side cards, which are the green ones, and 20 different sauces, which are the blue cards. You can take something like the meatball recipe card, which has all of the ingredients on the front and all of the ingredients on the back with macronutrients included on the bottom if you want to be healthy or you just want to keep count. Okay, these are almost done. I gotta be quick. So if you're feeling frisky, you can try the meatball card and combine it with the tzatziki sauce card, which is probably fantastic. I actually haven't tried that one yet. So if you pre-order this today at the link down below, you can try out that combination and then let me know how it tastes. I want to know.
Now that you've ordered Cooking with Chaos and these soba noodles are done, all I have to do is strain them and run them under some cold water. You can have these hot if you really want to, but I'm gonna have them slightly room temperature. Now the tofu is really easy to cook. I just take all the tofu with the marinade included, throw it into a pan and add some additional marinade to make sure that the marinade gets completely soaked into the tofu. This just gets cooked down until that marinade starts to caramelize, and you want to pull this off right before it burns. Once the tofu is cooked, it should have this really beautiful dark caramel color. Now the dipping liquid for soba is traditionally just a suyu with a bit of dashi. So in this case, I've already pre-made some dashi and I'm adding a bit of suyu just to taste. I'm finishing it off with some fresh green onions, making sure Gandalf doesn't get any.
Now, one method I had seen with the tororo kombu is that you can take, no Gandalf, you already know what this is. You don't like it. It smells like vinegar. You already know. You already, cat. Oh my God, cat. What do you do? This is not okay. This is now not okay. Yeah. You're being a monster. So one method that I've seen is you can take the kombu and soak it in your suyu broth. This way, it immediately gets, Gandalf, you've already seen this 1,000 times now. It gets to this like slimy texture that it just reminds me of natto from the Blue Lock diet. So I'm always open to trying new things. So we're gonna see how this tastes. I'm actually pretty curious and I think it's gonna be good.
Now, because Obanai is a very simple person who likes simple things, I'm plating up not all of the soba. That's a ridiculous amount of soba. That amount of soba is only meant for Mitsuri. Next to the soba, I'm going to plate up all of that marinated cooked tofu, followed by one nicely boiled egg. You can skip the egg if you don't want it, but I like egg with my breakfast. And this is breakfast that Obanai may have had during the Taisho era of Japan.
So during my research to live like Obanai, I came across a lot of information that says he likes very simple things. And to me, one of those really simple and easy things, as far as Taisho era Japan goes, is just some soba noodles and a little bit of broth. I'm gonna pick up some of that tororo kombu with it and give it a taste. It's my first time trying this, so cheers. You know what? The texture actually isn't that bad. Even though this looks super sus, I actually really like this. This tastes very nice. It's like super vinegary, then it's salty and sweet from the teriyaki sauce we had made. The biggest reason why he likes to have the lighter meals is because he doesn't like to feel weighed down when he's training. And honestly, I think this is a perfect meal right before any intense training, which we're gonna go do. Yeah, okay, here we go.
Obanai is known for his precision strikes and pinpoint accuracy, so I'm going to try to do a little bit of hashira style training today before I head to the gym.
What I think is really cool about this approach to week 2 of my hashira training is that I can take things a little bit slower, which is nice, versus when I did all of the hashira trainings in a single day.
Now, Obanai is known for his swordsmanship, in particular his pinpoint strikes that can actually bend around corners and turns. So what I'm trying to do for today is to pretend that I'm doing coiling serpent style training. This sounds really awkward, but all I'm really doing is making sure that my movements are very slow, very low, and very coiled up. I'm just glad that my breakfast wasn't too heavy today because I decided to try some butterfly kicks and some lower movements before I went to the gym.
So I don't actually know if Obanai would ever do any kind of weight training, but I assume he would have because he trained with the stone hashira.
So luckily today is push day, which means we're going to be doing legs again. I feel like I should focus more on the stretching, but I'm going to be stretching later today.
Doing all the hashira and sword training before the gym, maybe it's not the move.
I ended up getting a full set of hashira style training if I were training with Guillaume, but just without the rocks. Today I was focusing on a lot of lower body and upper body, which is pretty typical for my day-to-day activity. But there's 2 problems with today so far. I'm actually pretty sore from my sword training and my coiling serpent training, and also I smell horribly. These pants, they don't breathe. I'm at the gym. I'm trying to avoid people so they can't smell me. It's just all bad. And on top of that, I am nowhere near touching my toes.
So that's second training of the day done, and now it's time for second meal of the day, and I'm so excited to eat. I'm actually pretty hungry because breakfast, while it was light, wasn't incredibly filling, and I want to stuff my face. You know what I've come to really appreciate about Obanai is that, yes, I've already done my sword training, I've had breakfast, went to the gym, and now I get to make a fairly easy post-workout meal. It's also gonna have a little bit of caffeine, which is kind of nice because I still have stretching and we still have to make dinner, and there's kind of a lot going on with this series, and I still haven't gotten anywhere near my toes. That's okay, you know, we're eating good food, we're having a good time. All you can ask for these days. We're gonna get into it.
Now, one of Obanai's favorite foods is actually ochazuke. Ochazuke was introduced in the Heian period, and it was basically cold or hot water poured over leftover rice. But in the Edo period, thanks to agriculture and trade, tea was more readily available for the commoners as well. So instead of using cold or hot water, people started using cold or hot tea on top of leftover rice. Now, this ochazuke in particular is also going to get some marinated tilapia. And the marinade that I'm using is actually the leftover dipping sauce I had used during breakfast. So this actually has a ton of that leftover vinegared seaweed in it. And cooking this is really, really easy. I'm starting off in a medium hot pan and just putting the fish and all of the marinade into the pan. Normally, you would be grilling this maybe over open coal or fire, but instead I'm doing it in a saute pan because I don't have open fire or coals. The fish doesn't take too long to cook, and what's great about this is that it's a fairly common topping on ochazuke. By the Taisho era, this was considered a comfort food, and because it's so simplistic in its ingredients and execution, I can see why someone like Obanai would love this.
Normally, you would just put this like on top of your tea glass or your mug and it would filter, but I didn't do that.
The tea that I elected to use for this is a genmaika, or a roasted brown rice tea. This blend in particular does have a little bit of green tea in it for that caffeine boost. I'm topping this off with some furikake, which is a beautiful rice seasoning, and then throwing the fish right on top of that rice. I'm finishing this off with some more of that torororo kombu, raw and right out of the bag.
Again, it's still just, it's the vinegar seaweed. You don't like this. Sometimes I think he's a smart cat. And this is a pretty simple lunch that Obanai might have when he's eating with Mitsuri. That's a very, very strong thing, distinction. Words are hard for me. He normally wouldn't have this much food, but a lot of the research I had seen shown that he had eaten more when he was eating with Mitsuri. So for example, in this scene when they're at whatever restaurant this is, you can see Mitsuri has like a ton of bowls in front of her and he kind of has just one larger bowl. Normally he wouldn't eat that way, but because he wants to make Mitsuri feel very special because she is best girl in all of Demon Slayer, he goes for something a little more substantial. And granted, even though this looks like a lot of food, the 1.5 cups of rice is about 400 calories. A piece of tilapia is maybe 150 calories, and then the sauces and the garnishes are negligible. So really, this is maybe like 600 calories worth of food. So it looks like a lot, but it's not actually very calorically dense. Now I'll stop talking, and I'm gonna try this with the torororo kombu, a bit of rice, some of that beautifully like soaked in soupy kind of tea thing going on now. Cheers. Hold on, that's fantastic. It's actually very subtle in its flavors. The fish is slightly like cooked and braised in that sauce that we had used. And the torororo kombu is not that strong. It just kind of gives it a nice vinegary flavor. It's a little bit salty from the marinade, which is really beautiful. The rice itself is just perfect. I'm glad I'm eating this before my stretching training because I don't feel like it'll be too heavy. But now I have to go try to touch my toes. That's been futile so far. This is one of the most painful things I've ever done as a stretch. Dear Lord.
While this does help me with my flexibility, I'm relying on Lucian to keep me company.
This is basically Mitsudi's main stretch that she uses to torture all of the other Demon Slayers.
And because I am not flexible at all, I have to use a chair to help me out, and that still barely got the job done. I am very lucky that Obanai has a very easy, gentle diet that he likes to enjoy, so that way any of the excess training isn't affected by a very full stomach.
We did it. All five of the things, all 5 of them have been completed in one day, and I have severe regrets.
But one regret I don't have is that I've already made dinner.
Now, one thing that I'm really trying to do throughout this entire series, other than touch my toes and live like a Demon Slayer, is to always have dinner outside. Now, the weather isn't that great, but I found this really cute gazebo in my local neighborhood, so I can have dinner here. And dinner is in my custom-made Demon Slayer bento box. This is something that I had created in honor of Obanai because it still uses one of his favorite foods, which is that torororo kombu. But I had also used a few methods I had learned from Food Wars. This was pretty easy to make, and honestly, you could try this at home relatively quickly.
Since this dish is mostly an original idea I had come up with, it's not truly a Taisho specific dish, but I also think it's something that Obanai would enjoy because of its simplicity and its very limited ingredients. I'm soaking some tororo kombu with some Cooking with Chaos teriyaki sauce and just a little bit of water to dilute it so it's not super strong. This only takes a few minutes for that kombu to get fully soaked with that beautiful teriyaki sauce mixture we had made. Now the next part is going to be a beautiful piece of sashimi grade salmon. I know a lot of you may think, why are you wasting your time using sashimi grade salmon for this seared salmon? It's because I want to give you the option. You can sear sashimi grade salmon to a nice, very rare salmon, or you can have this raw. But because I'm going to be putting the salmon on top of hot rice, I did want to sear it just a little bit. Now in the bento, I'm layering a hefty amount of rice. And this is a technique that I learned from Food Wars where Yukihira had made this bento box that had a layer of nori in between the rice. But in this case, I'm taking the soaked tororo kombu and placing it on top of that first layer of rice. And then I'm taking a second thinner layer of rice and placing it directly on top of the kombu. This does 2 things. It gives a ton of flavor to the rice and it protects the fish from the kombu. I'm also adding a bit more furikake for a ton of seasoning. And then as a bonus, I'm throwing in a bit of umeboshi or a pickled plum. This is just for extra flavor and you can leave it out if you don't have it. Finally, I'm slicing up this sashimi grade salmon and placing it directly on top of the seasoned rice. This only has a few ingredients, but I promise the flavor here is going to be insane. And of course, I'm finishing it off with some fresh green onions because I love fresh green onions on everything.
This is dinner after a very, very long day. Have I reached my goal of touching my toes? No. Did I have fun today? Yes. Did I eat good food? Yes. I'll take 2 wins. Now I'm gonna take a massive bite of everything because this should have the salmon, the torororo stuff in the middle, and all the seasoning right on top. So cheers to another week of Demon Slayering, whatever. Oh wow, look at the kombu that's in there. Nice and layered in between the rice. It's actually incredibly tasty. It's salty, it's a little sweet, it's a little sour. It has a surprisingly good texture. And with the salmon adding the fattiness and the creaminess, look at that salmon. It's perfect. It's just so delicate. I didn't think this was gonna work, and it's fantastic. But now the problem is, I gotta deal with that guy.
Judging by the looks of you, you're useless.
Sanemi's right. The toes aren't gonna touch themselves, are they?
With 2 weeks of Demon Slayer training down, it's now on to week 3 with Sanemi the Wind Hashira. Get subscribed so you don't miss the next episode. My name is CHEFPK, and remember, keep playing with your food.